Stop layering 10 synths to get the cinematic background. I want to show you how to get Hollywood textures with using only a single instance of Wavetable and handful of stock Ableton effects. And I call this Cinema Drone Engine. So without further ado, let's go. So this is it. This is that tiny kind of little thing that makes all the noise, all the sounds on its own. So we have a couple of the macro snapshots. We have just 6 macros. In fact, this is a remake of a patch I made in one of my first videos, and that was watched by over 45,000 people. But this time I'm actually making it into a fully functioning device that you will finally be able to get your hands on. Now let's play a chord and let's browse through a couple of these nice macro presets. This is a safe house. Night drive, completely different. Isolation tank, something a bit more eerie, wobbly in the background, drowning, a bit more distorted here, cryo sleep, something happening in the background there, something changing more intensely. Now cold storage, it is much more wobbly, much more unstable, a bit freaky and spooky, which I love. Murder scene you can probably get is going to be a bit more intense and a bit more damaged. Something cool happening in the background there. And alien abduction works the best with only one key, so let's pick, let's say, A note and play that. That's actually very nice. Now, in a creative session, I'm not really into tweaking knobs, finding the perfect preset, taking too much time, because that will easily break my creative flow. I'm into something, I hear something in my head, I want to have it done and on my project straight away. But this, it's actually a performance tool that moves for you in a way that can be broken, can't sound bad. All the presets, all the macros are designed in such a way that whatever you do, it will still sound interesting and nice. So to prove that, let's play with the macros. So I'm going to reset them. I will play an E minor chord and let's listen to what does the scream do. Open is quite a lot, adds a little bit more of the resonance and opens up the filter. Rust destroys the sound a bit, yeah. Something happening in the background. What does the distance do? We can probably guess. Adds a lot of reverb here. We hear there's nice harmonics happening in the background. Damage, pretty self-explanatory. Ghosts. Adds that kind of Unison vibe, something detuned there in the background. That's super scary. Let's go all the way up in all the knobs here. And Torment at the end probably destroys the sound even more. That's exactly what happens. You can play however like, it all just sounds great. Okay, so let's go back again to Safe House and we'll open that device and see what's under the hood. So Command Shift G to ungroup. Okay, so once we've ungrouped everything, let's open that up. So we have the drone 2.0, which is, surprise, surprise, a wavetable. Wavetable is actually super cool in terms of making all the drones because of what you're going to see in a moment. So first, let's switch off all the other effects that are in the patch. And then let's open this up in its full beauty so we can see the wavetable as it's meant to be seen, fully screen synthesizer. Okay, so let's play a single note and see what's happening here. We can switch off the oscillator too. So that's oscillator number 1 playing and the sub oscillator for a second. You see it's stopped here for a second, but it will move in a moment. It moves up and down, it warps a little bit. Speeds up, slows down, which is super cool, interesting, very organic, unpredictable, which is what we need in drones. Also, the same happens with oscillator number 2. We can switch it on to get this little bit fuller sound. Also, sub-oscillators adding a little bit of the soft frequencies. And then we have 2 filters here. They are both working in a split mode, which means that oscillator number 1 goes into filter number 1 and oscillator 2 goes to filter number 2. They are both slightly driven. There are some frequencies that are obviously changing, as you've seen here. And what's most important here, if you want to achieve a nice drone, is to work with some LFOs. So here we have 2 LFOs, LFO number 1 and number 2, and they are very, very slow. So 0.03 Hertz, that is crucial. Also the other one, 0.05 Hertz. And what is super important here is that I've mapped something super cool here. So if we go down into the matrix here, you can see that little parameter. What does it mean? That LFO number 1 rate is being changed by LFO number 2. So what it means that if LFO number 2 goes a little bit faster, then the LFO number 1 will go faster. And if it slows down, the LFO rate will slow down as well. So that's super important and super cool. It makes that organic and unpredictable feeling. And as you can see, I've mapped all of these LFOs into the filter 1 frequency, filter 2 frequency. Sometimes I'm adding both at the same time, different values just to be super random here. And also what's very important, as you've seen them moving here, they are mapped also to the oscillator number 1 position, warp, and oscillator number 2 pitch to get that little wobble and drift, and oscillator number 2 position as well, of course. Now, also I'm adding a little bit of random parameter to the filter frequencies just to be even a bit more random. There's also one super cool and crucial thing. If we play a note, it is quite full, it's quite nice, organic, but why? Because we have this unison here. If we switch it off, the sound will be very synthetic, very digital, and we don't want that. So I've added a Shimmer unison. We can hear it in stereo now, and it's only 3 voices and a little bit of the amount. We don't want to go too crazy, otherwise it'll be very wobbly like that. Let's go down to 12%. And the other nice unison mode will be noise. In that case, you can crank it up a little bit more. It is super cool, but let's stick to what I had before. Okay, so let's open up some of the effects here. These are all stock effects you can find in Ableton Live Suite version. This one is called Say That Again. It's an echo device. Let's turn it on and let's see what it does. It's in a ping pong mode, so to get a little bit more of the stereo feeling. And we can of course play with the dry and wet signal to get that sound wobbling from one ear to another. And also in the character section, I've added a little bit of the wobble, which is being modified by one of the macros as well. Okay, so let's move on. The next thing is called Scratch Me a Little. What is it? It's a vinyl distortion. So let's hear that now. What it does, let's go up and drive. It has that little drive here. Nothing too strong, but something delicate. Just as the name says, scratch me a little. You can of course try to add the crackle, which can add that little cool crackle sound like a vinyl, but in this case I opted not to do that. Of course, if we add more effect, it will make more sense. So let's continue. So distance, it's a hybrid reverb. So hybrid reverb, I've chose the algorithm part only, so you can see it's blended 100% on the right side. So it's an algorithm part only, which is very nice and I really love it. Only thing in EQ, I'm cutting down some of the low frequencies not to get any rumble in the echo in the reverb. We don't want that. If we go more wet, you can see what it does. Also chose the bass to be mono, so to avoid any problems in mixing, we don't want to have bass which is too white. Okay, but let's move on. What next we have? Let's play a little chord here, something major, something funny. Let's switch to minor. Okay, we have Damager. Damager is a roar. Let's switch it on. We can straight away hear what it does, but it is a very delicate. Let's go. 100%. Super damaged. It's a 3-band, so we have the low, mids, and highs. Let's listen to what are the lows with mids and with highs all together. Okay, and next is Tormentor. Tormentor is a bit crusher, so Redux, and what it does, let's have a listen. Destroys the bits, make it like the old computer sound. Well, it would be very harsh or very synthetic if we didn't add more reverb at the end. So more space, it's another reverb, just a regular reverb device in this case. Let's turn it on, let's add more dry wet. It smooths out the sound a little bit, and what's super important, if we have one reverb before something destroying the sound like a saturator or let's say roar in this case, and we add another reverb, it creates these nice harmonics that you can see in the background now. You can hear it now. Something really cool, something unpredictable, some harmonics that are pinching out. And at the very end, one last thing, it's called Be Careful here, just it is a glue compressor, just to be careful here. So if you have some very loud sound, it will just tame them down. It's not working very hard, it's just working very little, but it is here just for safety and to glue all the sounds together, so to make it nice. That's it in terms of the whole device. Okay, so let's open it up again and we'll talk through some of the macros. Okay, so here we are. So first things first, scream. What does the scream do? We have it here. It's mapped to filter 1 frequency, filter 2 frequency. So it just opens up the frequency here, as you can hear. Rust in the order. So Rust will do filter 1 drive, filter 2 drive, and a global drive of Scratch Me a Little. So that very delicate but actually quite prominent tool, which is vinyl distortion. Adds a lot of the rust. The distance basically plays with feedbacks and reverb decays and dry wet signal of all the time-based effects. Feedback just to basically have more of these harmonics here, that we will be driving them with an X knob, which is damage. Damage does basically add a bit more of the damagers, so the raw ghosts. Ghost is a super cool one that adds a little bit more of the unison amount and wobble amount in the echo here. So let's listen to that. And Torment at the end adds a little bit more of the dry wet to the Redux. There it is, all the effects here. Now you can spend, of course, 4 hours trying to recreate all the effects and putting them in the proper order, mapping all the parameters, copying the macros here. And that's something I would actually encourage you to do if you're into learning sound design and learning how things work and creating your own preset, because then you will understand them much more. But you can skip the manual labor because I've packaged this all up, including all the macros and the macro presets, all the effects into one simple single download. It costs less than a coffee, so if your time is worth more than €5, $5 an hour, it's a no-brainer to have that device at your disposal. And this is actually the best way to support the channel, because I don't want to be offering on this channel any random stuff like VPNs or tools that will help you shave your... And of course, link is in the description. And while you're there, you can of course have a look on some other free things that I have to offer, some other cool pads and some cool instruments as well. Now, when we have this kind of super cool sound, let's go minor here. This is a bass, like the bottom part of the drone of the score. You can go lower, of course. Super cool. You want something which is much more prominent, some melody elements, some lead that will guide the melody through and make the score much more cinematic. And the best way to do it is here. So watch this video next.